This is going to be a good one, guys. We're going to talk about the S&P 500 going up and then crashing tremendously within 30 minutes. We're going to, of course, talk about Bitcoin, which is now seeing a slight correction, and what I think will happen next coming from here, and a few more analysis into Bitcoin, and then finally a new virus called the Hunter virus, which is now spreading from a cruise ship. Okay, let's start. So first of all, the S&P 500 actually has gone up by over $12 trillion in the last 27 trading sessions. But however, also today, it has crashed again. Over $400 billion has been wiped out from the US stock market in just 30 minutes. And if we go into the news here, we can actually see why this might be. Well, and we can see here that it has gone down. It's because of reports that President Trump is prepared to restart Project Freedom in the Strait of Hormuz and continue attacking. And there have been already reports that firing has continued between the US and Iran, of course. Of course, Dubai also being hit. This is not good for the markets. Looking quickly at the S&P 500, we can see here what we've been talking about. The markets pumping, of course, and now we can see the slight correction here in the markets that we are experiencing right now. If we zoom out a bit here, we can of course see that the S&P 500 is at all-time high levels, and of course the chart doesn't load again the day we want to load it. We can see of course here that the S&P 500 is at all-time high levels. I do expect a correction coming at some point, but for now I think it can continue to go up, especially with the AI bubble and AI stocks performing extremely well. Let's go into Bitcoin now. More importantly, well, Bitcoin is currently going down a bit. We mentioned in yesterday's video that Bitcoin is going up, and I personally still think we're targeting the CME gap at $84,000. But let's look at Bitcoin right now. We can see we have gone down quite a bit today, being somewhat rejected from the top side of our bear flag pattern here. We had a bear flag pattern, of course, the last time, and now have the same pattern. It looks almost like we went to the upside, but we can, of course, always redraw our bear flag pattern slightly if we like to. And if we draw it in this way, we are still in the bear flag pattern. So don't take these lines too seriously. What I'm trying to say is that we are in this pattern and right now going down. Now, what am I doing? Like I said, I went into a trade actually, and my trade personally was a short position. And like I mentioned in yesterday's video, I actually went into a short position, just a small one, to benefit from this potential down move now, which I strongly believe will happen. Let's go into that. Like I mentioned yesterday, my position is a short position into 4 parts. So basically started the position at $81,000. Why $81,000? Let me explain it briefly again. Well, $81,000 is actually the previous low of the previous bear flag right here. This is the previous low at approximately $81,000. And this was the first position. The second one is of course $82,000. Then I put another one at $83,000, another one at $84,000. And if we look closely here, we can see that 2 of them were hit, and the third one was almost hit just by a few $100s. We went all the way up to almost $82,800 almost. So just $200 away from triggering my third position. But right now I am in some profits here. However, what I'm trying to really make clear to you guys is that stick to your strategy. Okay, I am not now closing these 2 and say, okay, let me go all in on the short, increasing the leverage right now when we are at $79,800, $80,000. No, I personally still think that we're going to go to $84,000, and therefore I'm keeping these short positions open. It is always the case that if I close it and then say, let me double down, it goes in the opposite direction and goes to the same orders that it would have filled anyways. And like I said, I still think we're going to $84,000. We have this open CME gap right here, which we have pretty much 80% filled by now. The gap is all the way at just above $84,000, and therefore my last shorting position is at $84,000, and I think we are going to go back up there. So I'm not surprised now. The market has been very bullish. This is just a small correction before we then go up, inflict more pain on the market, and then eventually have a larger correction towards, of course, the bottom of this bear flag pattern here, which you can see. And this is also the time when I would be exiting my positions, but this is a position that I will be holding probably for at least a month or 2 going down as we continue the bear market. And the next thing to talk about is the liquidity map. So I want to highlight that we have grabbed most of the liquidity. What does this map mean for the ones that don't know yet? So these yellow lines is where most people get liquidated, meaning if you have a long or short position, with leverage, there's a price point where you get liquidated. For example, my short position, right? I bet that the market goes down and I take a short position. If the market, however, goes up, so my liquidation price is at approximately 97,000. If we go above that price, the exchange Binance will close my position, I lose all my money. So that's where you get liquidated. And the market usually goes to the prices where most people get liquidated. And we can see here these yellow lines, the liquidations for the people who were actually, they were shorting the market. Their liquidation price got hit, but these are people with a lot of leverage, like 50x leverage or something. They already hit, so there's not much liquidity remaining above us. There is no liquidity building below us. Of course, this is people who are longing the markets now as we see the market pumping, and it's usually retail. Retail always does something at the very end. Once Bitcoin already moves up, then retail jumps in, and you don't want to be like retail. So we can see liquidity below us. This is a magnet for Bitcoin to go to. So most likely after hitting the $84,000 CME gap, we're gonna go down here towards around $77,000, and then of course further down. If you look at this liquidation map, I want to highlight to you guys that we have a lot more long positions than short positions. Okay, look at only the red lines here, please. The red line is all of the cumulative long positions. We can see we have in the last 90 days, cumulative $6.2 billion of long positions, okay? If we look at short positions, $1.98 billion of cumulative short liquidations. So what this is telling us is that there's a lot more people who are long right now than short. And usually we want to go against the market. If everyone is long, the market usually goes the other direction and inflicts the most pain on market participants. Now, last two things to note is if we go into Bitcoin, okay? What I want to see here, this is Bitcoin on the weekly chart, and we can see the white line is the 200 simple daily moving average, okay? So the average of the last 200 trading days. And usually, whenever we go above this line, we enter a bull market. So this is the last cycle. We went above this line right here. We entered the bull market. Right. Also the time before that, I actually put the logarithmic chart here. But the time before that, we went above. We entered the bull market. Right now, we are at resistance, and I would not be surprised, and I'm strongly convicted that we're going to be rejected here. This acts as resistance. We continue down, and then eventually, if I draw it out, like Bitcoin can continue down here, go to like $50,000, and then this other line, I draw it in the same color. Eventually, we break above here and enter the bull market. That's what I think will happen. Let's go back in some time back to the video. Now, let's zoom out a bit, okay? We did the weekly. We're going to now look at the Bitcoin on the daily. So now we have Bitcoin on the daily. We're going to remove the simple moving average. And what I want to show you guys here is the relative strength index. The RSI is telling us if we are overbought or oversold in the market. And let's go to the daily. And here we can see that whenever we are at these overbought levels, right, Bitcoin usually finds a top. So look at this right here. We are overbought. Let me mark it for you guys. Overbought here, Bitcoin finds a local top. If any point, find any point. Overbought here, local top. Let's look at this one. Overbought, local top. Same thing also here. Pretty much a local top. And right now also we're approaching this line, this dotted line, meaning we're approaching these overbought levels. Bitcoin being, of course, at the top, most likely correcting from here, aligns perfectly with the top side of our bear flag pattern. Like I already mentioned, we're at the top side of our bear flag pattern here, so we'll most likely go down from here. And final thing to note, we can remove the RSI now. One sec. We can remove the RSI now. Is that if we look at the Bitcoin on the monthly, I want to just highlight that it usually takes 365 days for Bitcoin to find a bottom. Okay, look at this, guys. Every single cycle in a bear market from the top to the bottom, it has taken Bitcoin approximately 12 months. 12 months, 12 months. If the same thing happens this time, 12 months means October 5th approximately, around September, October. So you don't even need to watch my videos. If anything you take away, it's that Bitcoin usually takes 12 months to find a bottom. Buy some Bitcoin around September. My personal advice is take a 2-month time frame and buy every week Bitcoin in that 2-month time frame. So what you can do it in August and September, just to be on the safe side. Every week in August and September, allocate a certain amount of Bitcoin. of dollars into Bitcoin, whatever amount you want to invest, hold it for 2 years, and then look into selling again. That's all you need to know, really. I'm trying to be honest with you guys. And final news, there was a new virus that I saw is spreading. It's called Hunter virus. 5 confirmed cases now. It's in 6 countries. And yeah, let's see what's happened. COVID 2.0, let's see. But I would not be surprised if it spreads that the markets continue correcting. With that being said, see you tomorrow. Stay sharp. Bye.